SeerNova Podcast, Season 2, Episode 24. It's written right there.
Oh, yeah, it's on the top. I said that last time, too.
Yeah. We have Mark, Richard, Luther, or I will butcher that. What is that? What's the first one?
Merrick.
Merrick, Cartoon Arts. All right. And then Jeffrey October.
That back in the day, that would have got you to meet me at the bike rack after school, saying stuff.
Sometime in September, though.
And you can come too, Dylan. Both of you. Meet me at the flagpole.
So, before we get started, we'll start with Mark. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Let's say I'm a 62-year-old man who's been drawing and painting ever since I was 5. And my mother gave me a piece of paper and a pencil when I was 5. And I was so quiet that she had to come in the room to make sure I was still alive, but I was scribbling and sketching whatever I was doing. She never saved those pages, so I don't know how much I improved over the years. So, and Frankie Crossroads, when I was walking Route 28 in Herkimer, and I went past a few swamps and I kept hearing frogs. And I was listening to a blues song. And I said, that would be a nice idea to come up with a frog that learns how to play the blues and born in the swamps of upstate New York. So, and I was going to college at the time, so I started sketching it out at the library, college library. That was Herkimer Community College back in the day before they changed their name. So, and I created another graphic novel featuring the same character, which I'm working on the 3rd one. And recently I was going through my closet and I found another graphic novel I was starting. It's called Lunar Hair. It's about a rabbit that was born inside the moon through a crater, and that's where his family is. And I had 10 pages in it. I found it and I started it in 2020. It's now 5 years, and I went back to it and I was like, wow, okay. So, and I also work as a library aide at Frank J. Basil Library in Herkimer, where I live across the street, which I don't have to worry about taking a car. And for the past 6 years, I've been teaching drawing for the kids at the summer reading program. So the kids love it. And that's about it.
Oh, that's cool.
I know it sounds bored and nerdy, but you know.
Well, we're all nerds here.
Bored and nerdy don't go together, dude.
And Jeff, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Jeff August. I like to say we are Jeff August Ego Trip and we are Legion. I'm a tech exec in my day job, and other than that, I'm a novelist. I've written a novel and a novella. I've written or created 2 different comic book series. One that has seen the light of day and one that is about to see the light of day. I've recorded and released 2 records, full-length albums, and also about 15 singles. I can't remember how many that are not on any album. They're just things that I did. I'm a creator first and a worrier about what that means second. And I'm also more than any of that stuff. I'm a husband and a father, and that's the number one job. That's me.
Nice.
So, before I recorded, Mark asked a cool question. So, I could have just not mentioned that. So, how did everybody get their start in making comics? We'll start with Mark.
Oh, me? Actually, when I was 5, I think I went around with on Halloween, when is Batman? I don't know why, but I like Batman because this series was out with Adam West. And that was like, oh yeah, I want to be Batman. So.
Is Batman still your favorite character?
Well, yeah. And then I went, when I got in being a teenager, I went to the underground comics with Robert Crumb and the rest of those artists.
Fritz the
back
Cat.
in the day. Yeah. Something like that, yeah. So, but I was always interested in painting, the famous artists, Van Gogh, Picasso, and all that. And actually, my number one artist to go based on his creativity is Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know. It's just the way his curiosity was about things. So.
Yeah, Picasso's got my favorite artist quote, which is the good artist copy, great artist steal.
Yes. But we don't admit to it.
Well, it's funny. The other quote that I heard that's I just can't remember the who said it. It was something along the lines of steal from one and you're a plagiarist, steal from 100 you're a genius. And it's that's really what Picasso kind of meant. It's it's the idea that you can really connect with if you can take the connection between multiple arts that you really enjoy and find your art in the middle. That's really how you get refined, is grabbing all that.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, here's
but
the other
you know
quote.
what's interesting though? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There's a slight delay. This was a quote that I saw at the BMI studios. A good composer does not imitate, he steals. It's from Stravinsky.
Right.
So, yeah, everybody's doing it.
What was it? I had a thought, but it just seemed to pass away. So.
Way to go, Dylan.
Oh, what it was, all right. Jack Kirby wasn't great with anatomy, but his actions were great in his drawings. I mean, that's what I loved about his stuff when I was a teenager and going through the comic books. So.
Well, you look at that stuff back then. You're looking at Jack Kirby. They also there was also a lot of thieving going on then too, right? There's several weird characters that seem to appear both in DC and Marvel in different forms with different names.
Oh yeah, there's so many. I remember always thinking DC was taken from Marvel until I started really looking at timelines and I'm like, oh.
It's back and forth. Yeah, they took from each other, right?
Oh yeah.
But the one thing I really didn't like is when Bob Kane's like, I created Batman, but he wouldn't give credit to other people that helped him out,
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's true with a lot of the main superheroes is like very few of them were probably created by just one person. It's probably spitballing between a team of people, or even just two people. It's kind of hard to like just like spawn a new idea out of nowhere. It really often it happens in like creative circles where like different ideas blend and you get that little synergy going. And one person might like really push the effort. Like it might be one person's main idea, but very often it's sharpened and refined by the whole team around you.
The other thing about that too is it's often there's a character that you're creating, like who that character is and what they're going to do, how they exist, what their thoughts are. But there's also a total visual representation of it, right? So if you're working in a team and one person's a writer and one person's an illustrator, both halves of that are created by somebody else together, right? Like they're like I just think about the stuff that the book that we're working on now, the Ulheftnar Ritual, where it's funny because I made it a Kickstarter thing where I could actually put the first comic book version of it that I drew as a reward for somebody eventually, because you'll see it looks like a bald-headed bearded Conan the Barbarian with this weird necklace, and then you'll see the actual character and it's like there's it's the same story, it's the same stuff, but like one of them's definitely much more who the character really is, and it's not the one that I drew trying to come up with the idea. I'll put it that way.
Right. I had this one quote from my writer's workshop in college I took, and the professor said, whatever you think is the original idea, the Greeks probably did it before you. So
100% true.
And what was it? Is it Archimedes? Is he that guy that like basically made a laser that was shooting at boats? With sunlight redirected with mirrors. Like they were doing all sorts of
something like that.
And they threw grenades full of scorpions and stuff, right? Like they were doing biological weapons. Like they had it all down back then. Also, like Keith Richards once said, Keith Richard, because I don't think there's really an S, but like I say Richards because that's what I've heard my whole life. Keith Richards said that all songs exist. You just reach up into the ether and pull it down. Like it's not a thing that he came up with.
While he was on heroin, right?
Yeah. Or acid. It helps to be in an altered state, right? Mushrooms, some pot. It depends, like
I heard a really cool, I was watching a video probably like 3-4 days ago, and it talked about that where like the creative thinker is the one who can so when you drink, when you're on alcohol and drugs, all that stuff, it basically allows access to the rest of your brain without there being like streamlined information. But the real creatives are the ones that their brains already do that. Like they already can, cross communicate and talk. That's why like some of the greatest artists are those that are drugged up in alcohol, but then there's a few that are very clean, like very clean.
Right.
And it's because they don't want to mess up that, what's going on.
Like CM Punk, right? CM Punk is like straight
Well,
art.
in back in the day, writers got the bad rap of, they're really drunk, they're alcoholics, and they never come up with any good ideas until they drink, and so not true. So
well, some of them. Like Dylan Thomas, my favorite poet. Like if you read that, you can tell that guy was a drunk.
But Edgar Allan Poe was a drunk too.
Yeah, I mean it is. I was a drunk for a good part of my life too. So I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. What really matters is when the good writing started coming.
I don't know that it's come yet.
Okay.
It's still coming, right? Like it's always coming. Like you have to figure it out. It's funny because the book, the Ulheftnar one that I was talking about earlier, the reason that it exists is because sort of something you just said, Dylan, reminded me of it, which was draw every day November or something like this. One of those things on Instagram. It was during the pandemic, and okay. I was I'm not the best artist. I can draw okay, but like I'm not like gonna make a book that I draw. And I was like, man, I would really, just for this month, because I want to work on storytelling in a sequential way. So I'm going to make up a story, and I'm just going to draw it as I go through it, and kind of say, like, every day I'm going to make a page. I had an iPad for the first time, realized how easy it is to make crappy drawings that look great to the person who's drawing them digitally. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? I want to make a post-apocalyptic sci-fi historical Viking drama that's also a bro comedy. And if it was a TV show, it would have heavy metal as a theme song. And so just try to actually actively pull from a whole bunch of different things, and then end up with this idea. Like, I had this crazy idea that doesn't exist anymore, which is like, man, I'd like there to be a steam-powered Dodge Charger in this world, like whatever, And so you just kind of start like throwing crap against the wall and see what pops out. And some of it is terrible ideas, but like, you can train yourself to do that, where you're thinking about multiple things at once.
I do like the Bromcom idea, though.
Yeah. Well, one day you'll read it and you'll see. When I get
my working process, I wake up at 3:00 in the morning every day, except for Saturday and Sundays. And I have to be to work at 7. So instead of rushing, to have breakfast and, go to work, I take my time. I work on my graphic novels or sketches or whatever, and I make breakfast and I enjoy. And, and then after work, I work 7 to 12. And I go to Walmart, I do some grocery shopping, then I come back and I work on my artwork all the time. And my friends said to me, "You have such a simple life." I mean, my daughter is 38 years old. She's on her own. She's been on her own for a while. She lives on Long Island. When I was 47, I moved back up to Herkimer because I was born in Ilion, New York, in a hospital in 1963. I grew up until I was 10 in Herkimer. And I see the town, how it's getting so bad. Buildings are abandoned and all this. But it's my hometown. And my daughter, I had to tell my daughter, I said, well, this is my hometown. It might be run down, but it's where, my cousins live. I have aunts and uncles that's still here. So if I can afford to live on Long Island, which I can't, it's expensive. Up here, it's
a little bit
cheap. At least for me, it's cheap.
I just had to look up where Herkimer, New York is.
It's not that far from me.
Yeah, I see. It's not north of Cooperstown, right?
Yeah, it's not that far.
Yeah. Nice. Little country living.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but if I lose my birth certificate, I got to go to Ilion Town Hall to get my birth certificate.
Yeah.
So, go figure.
So, Jeff, how did you get yours?
Holy cow! I forgot that was a topic.
Yeah.
Well, I
do we have set topics, or are we just going?
We're just going.
I mean, we're just have an episode guide thing, and then we just flow.
Yeah. So like, I literally backed into it, and I'm talking about my backside into in underoos back when I was a little boy. I was very enamored with Batman underoos and Spider-Man underoos, and then eventually I became. It became cemented for me that comic books were the path, whatever.
It is the way.
Yeah, the way. I have spoken. I have a Queel figure right over here. I have spoken. We went Marvel's Secret Wars, which was like, I have it out in the study, like a graphic novel version of it, like and it's like I read it now and I'm like, man, thank God I was 8 years old when that came out, because that's the only way I would think it was badass. But now it's going to be a movie, and I'm sure it's going to be really cool and all that. But like, spoiler alert, Doom tricks the God guy into taking over his whole realm. So just so you know, that's why Dr. Doom's a badass. Actually, that's why he's a worthy heir to Thanos in a way that Kang the Conqueror never would be. Frankly,
is that the secret of the wars?
It was so no. The way it's all set up is there's this guy, I forget what his name is. I don't think it's the Beyonder. I think that's from DC. Anyway, this guy, he pulls all these villains and all these heroes to his secret war planet to have a battle to prove who's the best. And so you have have the X-Men, you have all the Marvel good guys and all the Marvel bad guys are in there. The Wasp gets killed, but restored to life at the end. There's stakes, man. There's stakes. And actually, my favorite action figure from the whole thing was Daredevil. Like, 'cause I love Daredevil. He's the Marvel Batman. Remember we were talking about stealing earlier. He's the Marvel Batman. He's just blind. And there's some really cool metaphors in that.
It's funny though. I bet it's because of the bat, like the fact that bats are blind. Yeah, and they by sonar. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so he that action figure came out in the Secret Wars packs. I got it. My stepdad bought me the comic books because of that action figure, and we would read them together. And I didn't realize until the last one that Daredevil wasn't even in the comic, but they made an action figure of him with the same branding. So whatever, it worked out in the end. Anyway, that's for and then after that, you're like, there's just. The next really big one that I loved was A Death in the Family Batman. I was a little older when that one came out. And also The Dark Knight Returns obviously is a classic.
That's the one that my dad had. That was the graphic novel, and that was Frank Miller is nice.
And then another one from around that time is called The Longbow Hunters. It's a Green Arrow story. And if you look at me, you'll see I'm bearded and mostly blonde, now very gray in certain parts. I had two choices of who could be my favorite superhero as a young man. It was either Aquaman or the Green Arrow. And I didn't want to have to go to a fish pond in order to have something to do in the story. So I chose to be Green Arrow. He was my favorite because, plus he was also just a Robin Hood ripoff, but whatever.
Yeah. He's one.
So what did you three think of Frank Miller's Batman Year One?
It's fantastic.
Did you like the way he drew it?
I think everything that Frank Miller does with that's overstating it, but definitely Year One and The Dark Knight Returns, those two, like visually, the story, all of it is fantastic. I didn't think the other Dark Knight Returns stuff that came after was as impressive, but like those, the drawing and the storytelling, all of it.
You out of the third volume, like
Yeah, when he made, like, there was the extension of the story, right? Like, it was. I thought it should have just ended when he died. Oh wait, did I spoil that for everybody too? Jeez, I'm just spoiling everything.
How many times has Batman died?
That's a good question.
Is that the one where like Superman's walking away and then he hears his heartbeat underground, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's been forever ago. Yeah.
At the very end, he's like standing at the grave, and he goes, you see his eyebrow pop up because of the heartbeat. Yeah. And then I think they kind of like retcon after that he knew the whole time and they were working together. I didn't really like the ones after that. Sorry, Frank. I know that you really care about my opinion.
Now we're gonna get a bad review on our podcast. Great.
It's okay. I'm happy to have a debate with anybody. We can have the discussion, right? Like, it's okay. You don't have to agree with me.
I figured anybody who goes into comics, drawing, writing, or whatever, should know the history of comic books.
Yep.
Because when I went to this one college, I was talking to an English teacher, And there was a kid that was 18. He was a music major, and me and the English teacher were talking about Bob Dylan, and the kid comes up and he goes, "Who's Bob Dylan?" And we looked at each other, and you're taking music and you don't know who Bob Dylan is. So it doesn't make any sense, right?
It's like he's just famous Beatles, and it's like the Bugs.
I know.
How does it feel to be forgotten, Bob?
So
How does it feel?
Oh. He had a movie about him though, so it's all good.
And Timothée Chalamet played him, so I mean that means he was hotter than everybody realized.
well,
I heard it was really good. I haven't seen it yet.
Have you guys seen? Have you seen the Bruce Springsteen movie with Jeremy Allen White?
I have not seen that.
There's a Bruce Springsteen movie coming out with the dude from The Bear and Lip from Shameless.
It
It's
was
probably like cousin, this chord.
cousin.
it wasn't his singing,
Watching The Bear.
but it was his
Heard,
words.
Heard. Oh, Bob
You know?
Dylan. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Bob Dylan anniversary show that was at Madison Square Garden. I think it was like maybe 1992 or 93. And there's a 2 CD set of that, which you can also just stream now because you don't have to have physical media. But if you listen to all the people who play different Bob Dylan songs, I mean, it's like insane. He was like, for kids of the 80s, he was like Babyface, who wrote every R&B hit. He wrote every rock and roll hit in the 60s.
Right.
Like all the way to Lady Lay.
But when he went electric at
Monterey.
At the jazz festival,
Yep.
people like booed him. No, we don't want to go electric.
Well, I wonder what those people would think of AI.
Right?
I think 3 of them just had a heart attack. That's what's happened.
Let's really I'll just piss everybody off on this podcast. I'll just start talking about all those sort of hot button topics. What do I talk about next, guys?
So what do you guys think of AI? I don't like it. I like to hand draw and write. So
yeah, I think most people like
call me old fashioned, but that's the way I am.
I think
So
AI is a prediction engine, right? It's not really like.
I was gonna say the thing that I've chatted about this before. I think the one thing that anybody who is in any art, music, comics, film, doesn't matter. Even if you don't like the creation part, use it for the business part. Use it for like all the stuff that you don't want to have to do. Ironically, you can now be like a one-person artist, musician, whatever, because everything else can be done by AI. So you can actually just be an artist, which is incredible. And all you have to do is learn how to talk to a computer. You know, it's like data, feed us what we need.
Yeah, I was actually vibe coding. I don't know if you guys have heard of vibe coding.
I just super recently heard about that. What is that?
So essentially, you're writing prompts into an AI, and it spits out the code. So like, what I was like, I wanted to make. I thought it would be an interesting idea. This is just an exercise. I do stuff like this all the time. It's ridiculous. But I like sit down and go, okay, I'm gonna make a football game where you roll dice, and the outcome of the dice based on the people.
So is the vibe just going back and forth, like working with it as you build it?
Yeah, vibing is you just.
I just made Sonic. Yeah, I just remade my own Sonic by doing that. I was like,
yes,
a Sonic game, and then it was just like a flat land and a red square, and I'm like, okay, add some obstacles, and then it does it. I'm like, all right, and then I'm running and jumping, and then I'm like, wait, but there's no momentum. Add momentum, and it's like too much momentum. Like,
yeah, and then the thing is, it'll spit out the code if you tell it to. Like,
I literally just keep downloading it and playing it. Like I was doing it, playing it, and testing it. And it was So now, I heard that term. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, vibe coding. That's what they call. I think it's somebody from like OpenAI who came up with the term vibe coding. I laugh every time I hear it. I chuckle because it's like that seems ridiculous, but like whatever.
And they actually landed on the moon. I was 5 years old when they did that, showed it on TV. So there's no conspiracy there.
Yeah. Well, I think the moon. This is actually a very interesting thing to think about too, right? Because you see lately all the big hubbub about Jeff Bezos getting people into the stratosphere, or like just outside of the atmosphere, and like, look at this, this achievement of private industry, and it's like the government did that in 1969, dude. Like, I don't know. Let's actually celebrate stuff that people
I
haven't
love
done
it.
before.
Did you hear this story about that 15-year-old girl who said the Holocaust never happened?
Oof.
Oh, there's a whole group of young people.
Meanwhile, Eisenhower was the smartest general. He made sure he took pictures of everything.
Yeah, filmed it.
When they went to the concentration camps.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we're really veering into stuff that I didn't mean to veer into, you guys. I'm sorry. Let's talk about comic books again.
Oh.
Do you what I like?
Back to comic books.
Yeah. Do you ever
right?
Alt history comic book Watchmen.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Or
that's
how
a fantastic
about
one.
Art Spielman's Mouse. Mouse.
Yeah, MAUS. Mouse.
Yeah.
That's bad.
It's interesting. That's something that I've been like looking into was having. So a lot of kids are struggling to read now, probably due to the COVID times. Basically masking up kids so they can't learn to like read mouths or facial expressions. And one of the things that's interesting is that comics are a great way to learn a foreign language. So that means it's very good for learning brief communication. You get to see a facial expression and a thought, and that's typically conversational. And so one of the things I thought about was one day, I think it was like Sam's Club, I saw a comic book version of the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And I'm like, I want to take old philosophy like Seneca, Aristotle, what's his face?
Marcus Aurelius. Let's get some
Marcus Aurelius.
Right.
That's not what I was trying to say. I'm like, meditations.
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius, I would love to have a comic book version of that. And that's one of the reasons why I want to learn to draw sequential. Because you mentioned that earlier about not being good at art, but you're good at art. It's like, yeah, I'm decent at art, but I can't draw sequential art. I cannot draw a comic book. I can draw better than the average person, but I am definitely not a sequential artist. And but I think that it would be history like drawn into comics. Like that would be such a cool, like, because they have like the wall still in Europe that has the bulls and the blood and the burn marks from children from like the World War stuff. Like people like, so that history disappears because kids don't read. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, why not make a comic book that, teaches kids that stuff?
Well, have you ever saw Will Eisner's stuff in his graphic novels or his Spirit?
Yeah. My uncle had like all of them. So
I think also along that point, Dylan, is that my girls, like the way that the stories that you tell in a sequential and visual way are much different. Like when I was a kid, it was guys in tights beating each other up, right? Now, like there's like girl drama stories, right? Like there's like your typical teenage blah fest, but it's a graphic novel and it sells really well because girls like that stuff too.
I was gonna say, there's even the kid stuff. What was that one where like it was like a high school or like elementary school journal? How to Survive.
How to Survive.
And Diaries of a Wimpy Kid. That was the one I was thinking of.
Well, the latest the kids love is Dog Man.
Yeah.
Dog Man's huge. Yeah. There's also a lot of like dragon. There's like a whole dragon themed one that my niece and nephew really love, and they're very excited to show it to me because they know that I'm a nerd like them, right? So like, look at this. This is what happens in this, and it's like really well drawn, and it's a beautiful. But it's like they're very engaged in the book because, I mean, honestly, I think sequential art is probably the best storytelling method there is because it.
Well, I grew up with I don't know if you ever remember or seeing the Eerie magazine
No.
that had like Frank Frazetta on the cover. And I think it came out the time Heavy Metal came out, the
Oh, heavy
magazine.
metal. I remember heavy metal.
And then it was the Eerie. I think it was in the 70s, late 80s, early 80s. But the artwork was amazing in there. So
Yeah, I just remember heavy metal. Probably like what was the movie came out 1981 or 82 heavy metal movie, and my mom didn't realize that my brother and I had figured out that there was cartoons that were not for kids, but we just told her, oh, it's just a cartoon, and so she put it on the TV for us and walked away, and woo, we learned some things. That was awesome.
So I want to get into, let's see, my first comic convention was the Albany Comic Show. But I found out it was more for collectors.
Oh, the Albany
than anything
toy
else.
comic, like that.
Comic and toy show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it
the,
was.
yeah.
Oh, so that was like the first one that me and Dylan like.
Oh,
went
weren't
to.
you guys just at that?
No, it's a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Albany Comic and Toy Show was like me and Dylan wanted, like when we first started, we're like, oh, we should go to Comic Con to see like how it is, and we just like went there to like go there. That was at.
But the funny thing is, I had a table that it was, I think it was cold. They had the side door open, right? I was next to somebody who was drawing superheroes for people. And I just had my first graphic novel. People looked at it, they loved, but they didn't buy it. And I was like, my first Comic Con, and it stopped.
You know, it's funny that same Comic Con, Greg, was that the one that we went to where some guy, he was the only guy selling comics, and he was like put on a bunch of rocks next to somebody's like hotel.
Yeah, he was like on like an island, like a brick island thing, because it was inside like he was in like the lobby of the Radisson.
Yeah,
right.
Because they didn't pay their taxes. So, so yeah, this one dude that is the only one that actually had like comics. There's like some guy that I bought like a Deadpool.
And they were pretty cool too.
From,
but you know who was there? It was that lady from War of the Worlds, 1950s. She was there signing autographs. She was in the same room I was in, so.
Oh, that's cool.
She was in her 90s.
Wow.
Crazy. That's awesome.
It's a history lesson today.
Yeah,
I'm into it. I'm enjoying it. I think
have you guys ever did Unicon, like in Utica?
Nope.
No,
This guy does this comic book convention, and all the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society. So
pretty cool.
it's this year. It's in October. So
Yeah,
So
I've been there twice. I think twice or three times. I've sold a few things, and then last year I didn't sell anything. The person that was next to me had those 3D. He had 3D printers, but he was like had squiggly animals or worms or whatever, and people were buying
the
that.
dragons that break apart.
that kids like play with and stuff.
So, quick question about cons. If you were going to participate in cosplay, what would you be?
What I would be?
Yeah, what would you be? What would you go? What would you be? What would you?
Come to think of it, when the first Friday the 13th movie came out, I was a teenager.
Oh yeah.
I think I would go as Jason.
Kill.
And that's the first movie that Kevin Bacon, I think it was his second movie. I don't know if it was his first, but he was in that movie. I was like,
He was the one
okay.
he got did he get an arrow through the back of his head, or did he get stabbed while he was
Yeah, yeah.
He got stabbed when he was,
Yeah.
you know,
He was post-coital. He was in
But
post-coital
The
delight.
funny thing about that movie, you probably know, or I don't know if you know, but Jason was never in that movie. It was Mom.
Yeah, Jason was only at the very, very end, remember?
or
He popped out of the water at the very, very end.
Yeah, yeah.
the boy.
But
you know,
you know, not for nothing, I don't mind sequels if they're good, but Friday the 13th, their sequels just went out of hand.
so you're saying is you absolutely hate The Last Jedi?
No, I like the Star Wars. I mean, I grew up with the
Jason
first.
Statham, what are you talking about?
That was bad. That was bad.
Jason versus Freddy.
Right?
I like,
Oh,
well, Friday the 13th.
the
is my
first
favorite.
two Nightmare on Elm Streets were good, but it got far-fetched after a while. Come on. Got to be like a joke almost.
Third one's awesome. Dream Warriors.
Oh, that's Freddy. That's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's Nightmare on Elm Street. The third one is the best one.
Yeah. Yep. That was the first one I saw. And
Oh,
then
well.
Friday the 13th, I like all of them. So.
I lived in this small rural Hanford, California. I lived in Lemoore, California, but we didn't have any movie theaters. We were that small, so we had to go to Hanford, California. And back then, they would buy that. God, what year was that? 1983, maybe 19. When did that Freddy movie come out? I was in junior high at most, and they let me buy
86, 87 maybe?
I bought.
Was it
I bought
86, 87?
Yeah, I walked up and said, "My mom said I could buy a ticket to this rated R movie, sir." And then they just sold it to us, and we just went in and watched the Dream Warriors. Those were the
Sounds
days.
convincing enough.
Those were the days, brother.
You
Those
just
were
point
the
to a
days.
random card. You're like, my mom's over there. She said it's okay to buy it.
They just go to the Quickie Mart, like with the letter that says, "My mom said I could buy smokes, eh?" You know, like
Oh man, I remember growing up, if you took the bus, there were smokers on the bus. If you took the train, they smoked on the train.
oh yeah, not good.
Movie theaters, it's like, okay.
Smoke everywhere. Well,
Back
that's what
when
my wife.
That's
Go
back
ahead.
when everyone was skinny.
Yeah. my wife was telling
Correlation.
my girls were like, "You've never lived until somebody reaches and says, 'Here, hold my cigarette so I can fix your ponytail,'" and then you're like, that was the 80s in a nutshell.
Well, going back to Comic Cons, the best Comic Con I had was I was visiting my daughter, and I did the Eternal Con at Hofstra University in July, I think it was. They had it the weekend of July. I sold like 4 of my graphic novels. I sold some pinback buttons I made, hand painted ones and this and that. And people loved the stuff. And I was like, yeah, I made some money. That was great. So
is there, you guys, help a brother out. My daughter is about to go to NYU, right there in the heart, what's that, Washington Square Park or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really big Comic Con that happens in New York, but I've never been to it.
New York Comic Con?
Oh, you mean
Yeah,
the New
the big
York
one.
Comic Con?
Yeah, the New York Comic Con. Where's it at?
The one
It's
that's at Javits Center.
Yeah, the Javits Center. It's actually bigger than San Diego physically. Like there's more people that attend it. Just the San Diego's the premier one. That was the first big one I ever went to back in like 2018, so pre-COVID. So it's fun.
But like
last year I applied to it and they said, well, reapply, we're full up and this and that. And it's sort of a polite way to say, hey, you're not famous enough to be there.
No, honestly though, if you ever want to get into one of those conventions, wait until like 2 weeks before the convention because sometimes people back out and then they need to fill spots. But they are very expensive.
Oh yeah, they tell me I'm on a waiting list, but I never hear from them. So
Yeah, you have to keep reaching out because basically the way that it works for New York and San Diego, once you get on the list, as long as you keep going every year, you basically stay on the list. So that's why it's so hard for new people to get in. There's this smaller comic creator who did that in San Diego. He got a table right near the front entrance, and he goes back every year because you'll never get that spot again if you ever back out. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely something that's hard to get, but if you ever do get in, you just got to keep doing it. And it's in October, by the way.
Right. Well, I also been applying to Cartoon Crossroads in Columbus, Ohio. The one was co-founded by Jeff Smith of Boney fame. You know Jeff Smith, right? Or heard of him?
Sounds familiar.
So, yeah, I always apply, and it's like, oh, sorry, you can reapply, and so I keep reapplying.
Greg and I applied for Saratoga Comic Con for 3 straight years before they finally accepted us, and that's just a local one. So it is a very big one, like compared to like the rest of the standard. Like not like there's huge ones like MegaCon, San Diego, New York,
right.
etc. But then there's most of them are much smaller, like the Albany one. But the Saratoga one gets 8,000 to 10,000 people at it, and yeah, we for 3 years in a row before he finally got back. And now that we're on the list, he keeps asking us to come back.
I've been applying to that one. I haven't heard from them.
Yeah, you basically have to follow up like crazy with Saratoga, but if you ever do get on the list, then you're basically good as long as you don't.
Well, recently I sent them one of my interviews that I did for a podcast called Story Comics. It's a short one, and it introduces me, so I haven't heard from them. I sent them an email, so.
On the Comic-Con tip, can I ask a quick question? Greg, what's the best Comic-Con, like your most successful Comic-Con, and how did you define success?
Yeah, I think it was Saratoga Comic Con so far. So Nashville was really good besides the gnats in the building. But yeah, that was annoying.
I swear there was a dead body there. There were so many gnats and there was no garbage near us. We have no idea why.
Where do you guys fly there, or do you take a train?
Dylan lives there,
and then Greg flies here, and then Greg's in New York. So when I want to go to New York, I fly there.
Yeah.
So like,
okay.
When you say, hey, I said what were your most successful, and right away you said Saratoga, and Dylan started shaking his head. Yes. When you think about what's successful, like what does that mean at a Comic Con like that?
That's the most people like at a con that we've been to so far.
Okay.
Nashville it was like the 4th year, I think, this year. So,
Nashville was good. It's just we were in a weird spot. Like we were
on a corner, and then like there was a banner blocking us, and then we're like I'm like, can you tell those like board game people to like kind of move the banner?
Yeah,
wasn't even their banner.
Yeah, if you go down the hallway, there was basically we were in the pocket, but like the edge of our table was in the pocket, and then we were off of the strip. So if you're walking straight, it's easy to avoid us. And the hallways are so wide, but there were tons of people there, so it was cool. But like the Saratoga one, the hallways are a little narrower. It's a lot easier for people to just walk by your table and go, hey, like stop on by.
And the first year at Saratoga Comic Con that we did was May of last year. And we were put right near where the celebrities were. So there's celebrities like, again, they moved them for some stupid reason. So they're celebrities, and so there was this like tall fucking like black dude from One Piece.
Right.
Looked like the character, but he's awesome. So Dylan was talking to him, and then so they're just like there on the side, and then our table, you have to pass our table to go to the
In other words, they pass you when they come in, and they pass you when they go out.
And they had to wait in line. That was the bigger thing. So it was David. What's his last name? The voice actor of Snake.
From Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, I can't. What the hell's his name?
And he's also.
oh man, it's but that guy.
So Tony the Tiger was there. The guy that voices Tony the Tiger, who also voices Gambit from X-Men.
Really?
Yeah,
he was there.
I think the new one, though, I think. But what's it called? Yeah, so they were both near us. So the lines were backed up near us. So people are literally waiting in line, sitting in front of us. They're like, "Hey, look what we've got," you know, and they're sitting there. So it kind of forces people to engage with you. But I definitely think, like, having a lot of people there, having narrow corridors so they can't kind of just avoid you, being positioned well. So we were not the end cap, but we were near the end cap. You don't really want to be on the far end because like people will see, oh, that's the end, and turn around, which actually happened to us recently at another con.
Right.
And so if you're near the middle, if you're near non-competitors, so like we were near like a toy collectible thing, and then the other one was what the heck was the other one?
Like Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
And like Pop Funkos maybe, but like both of them were they were not comic books, and we weren't, because we're indie comic, we don't want to be right next to Marvel, DC, Punisher.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like for us, it was very good. We were like secluded from other comics. We were near non-competitors, and there's enough traffic that we can be like, hey, come check us out. But like, yeah, if you don't have enough traffic, then you're not going to have a successful one, because you can only stop the people that walk near you, unless you want to go run around, you know, handing out flyers, which I don't know if they frown upon. But yeah, and then we sold the most there. We made our table back the first day plus some, and then the second day we made, I think, the same amount. So we doubled the cost of the table. The other thing was getting our comics into the hands of new people. So that's another big thing. So people that never heard of us, and then they're buying our comics, and now we're getting potential new fans. But that's probably the stuff that I would consider, like, you know, a winning.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
So do you guys sell more online, say your website or whatever, or is it more
we
convention?
We sell more through Kickstarter, but only because we're doing giant launches. On our website alone, we've only sold like literally a handful of them. And most of them are sold at conventions. Honestly, that's part of us not doing enough promotion to our website. When we first built our website, we built it as a hub for a bunch of independent creators. So we had like 100 plus comics on there that weren't ours, from like 20 to 40 or 50 creators around the world. And that was what we built our first site on. We've since rebuilt it in the last like year and a half, 2 years. So now we're trying to drive traffic there for our comic. But that was something where we were trying to help other people out. But basically, we spread ourselves thin. And if the rest of them weren't helping with the promotion, so we're like, okay, it's kind of like diluting our brand and not helping anybody. So now that we're doing our own thing, you know, we're starting to, you know, rank for stuff. So like one of the things I did was when we went to the Independent Creator Con in Connecticut, I created a page on our website saying we're going to be there sharing.
I was going to ask you if you did that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then because we put it on our page, we were actually one of the top ranked searches for that. So now we can start coming up for these indie comic things. So it's something like in the long run, I'd imagine that our website will make more sales overall, but it's definitely something that if you don't prioritize, you don't build a strategy around it, like no one's going to come find your random indie comic website. Like you need to I wrote a blog about color, color grading in films and how important color is in comics and movies and how it can set tones. It can show. I talked about the Matrix, the green and blue. Like when you're in the Matrix, it's green, and when you're in real life, the power of that. And now someone might stumble across that article that has nothing to do with our comics, except a brief little mention where I go, "That's what we did in our comics Mittens, where everything's blue." And it's like, so that like just being able to do little subtle things like that, but then provide, you know, excess value to somebody who's interested in the space is how, you know, you can really get from people.
You also just
I applied for the indie comic convention in Connecticut, and Matt's like, we were so overwhelmed with artists that want to do this convention, and he put me on a waiting list, and I guess I'll have to apply, you know, for next year. So
Yeah, I think they're going to expand it next year because literally this year they said it was double what it was last year. And so, yeah, I think they're going to end up expanding it. But Jeff, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask you guys because like this is so in the Ulheftnar Ritual. There's a part that's set in like 867 in Hedby, Denmark, right? And so there's a specific color palette that we use for that to communicate that that's where we are. Then there's this dream plane stuff where there's only specific colors and it's very swirly and white and all this. And then there's this other part where it's like in the future and it's in Whitefish, Montana. And for that, we used the color palette that we lifted from the Thundercats show from the 1980s. Like, and so, and then in the other book that I've done, Baylandia, it was a noir, right? So it's like this demon, this dude who's hunting demons, but like what, you know, whatever. It's like a detective story. And so it's all black and white, right? There is no, so I think like it's such an awesome thing that people don't think about. And it's part of that creating the when you're the writer of a comic book, you're not, this is where your artist is your partner and you have these discussions about this kind of thing. And you're like, okay, this is this era of time. What should the colors look like? And this is the muted colors that say we're in Denmark in 867. And this is the colors that say we're in the future and we're in Whitefish, Montana. And I think that's just like an interesting part of everybody. I think when you think about it being a comic book writer, you have to think that it's primarily a visual medium. So those are things that you have to include. It's not just writing a script, right? It's not just saying like, this guy says this and then he punches this dude. It's actually, we're in this era, which means this colors, which means this specific sort of set of circumstance. It's really, how deep do you guys go with that when I know you guys have a lot of books. Like, so like, is that like, how do you think about it when you're doing that? It sounded like Mittens for sure. What else? What about the one that I just backed that I can't wait to get a copy of with the UFC guy?
Nightwatch. So yeah, it's getting printed. Yeah, finally.
I'm sorry. That's part of that was my bad. I was supposed to put it together. So I do the production, like putting the comic together. And I basically decided to make one of the filler pages, which by the way, I wrote an article on that too, like what to put in like filler pages. So, you know, every comic has to be 4 pages or increments of 4 pages so they can fold. And so sometimes you don't know what to put in those other pages. Ironically, I wrote an article and then later we're trying to figure out what to put in there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I have an article on this. And then I'm like, which ones of these should we do? We went back and forth. And then we decided on something that was so intense that I ended up having to I had to take Greg's map of our world and then rebuild it to look like a real map, like with landscape and terrain. And then use that just to take one tiny section of it and go, this is where this character's from. And then we built a whole bio and a universe. Like I started taking all the martial arts in our universe and going, oh, well, because we have a different Earth, like you can't call it Muay Thai, which literally means like boxing of Thailand. And
right.
It's because we don't have a Thailand.
There's no Thailand.
Basically, I ended up going through all of the martial arts. So like Jeet Kune Do, which is like the hybrid martial arts that Bruce Lee made, one of the first mixed martial arts. That's what our main character uses. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't call it Jeet Kune Do because Bruce Lee doesn't exist in our world and we can't do it. But I was like, okay, I know the philosophy and part of it, it's like to be like water, formless, shapeless. So I renamed it as something like Washing Dao, which means it's or Wuxing Dao, something along those lines. And it means the formless way, or like, you know, I think it's like, yeah, the formless way. And so that was kind of how we renamed Jeet Kune Do as Washing Dao. And yeah, it's just fun stuff like that. So that's why that took forever, was I decided to go over the top world building when I just needed to create a couple filler pages.
Yes. But now we have that cool stuff in that. But
what are some cool like world building like on the one.
Wait, back to the colors before we get to the.
Yeah, go with colors. Let's talk
totally about distracted it from that.
So the coloring thing. So the reason Mittens is blue is it was cheaper to do. And then Josh, the artist, is like, yeah, this is cheaper and it'll be easier for Alex. And I was like, all right.
but honestly, that's similar to like how the Hulk was misprinted green, and now the Hulk is green. Like he was originally gray. So,
but then when people look at it at a con or whatever, they're like, "Oh, this is really cool. It's like all in blue, like you're in space." I'm like, "Yeah, I totally meant to do that." And then
create beautiful accidents.
And then also, Mittens is colorblind, so he only sees in that color.
Okay.
So that's another reason. And then, he's later going to get his like visor thing fixed. So, but so we do that with color.
Yeah. My question is, say that Greg comes up with an idea, but he talked and you talked to the writer about it, and you guys come up with one idea or two separate ideas?
So Greg's like the writer, and then most of the time I'm the editor, depending on the work. Mittens actually is the only one I wasn't involved in. That's probably why it's the bestseller. But that and it's a cat, and it's for kids. Maybe that's it. But the whole
because Josh was like he was just at a Comic Con in Michigan, Capital City Con or whatever it's called. And the editor for Mittens was also there, so she was sending people to get autograph from him. Like, the artist is like right over there, so just go have him sign. Right. And then he also had some teaching comic art thing with his friend because he's an artist. Right. And he's like, so a lot of he was talking about Mittens, and then a lot of kids came up after and was like, so like, how do I like read that?
But also to the question though of like how coming up with stuff. So even like Mittens, for example, Greg originally wrote it, gave it to the artist, and when he looked it over, he goes, "Hey, you only swear one time in here. If we just dial back the violence and get rid of the one swear word, this is a kid-friendly comic." So that completely reshaped how that story was told, even though it's the same plot. Instead of blood, it's a bonk. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of the idea. And on the color note too, we do still select colors. So like in our universe, green energy is good, red energy is bad, purple is this neutral, very much like the lightsabers in Star Wars, but not intentional. And so that was something that, like, because of that, Ink, like our character with the tattoos, his world, because he ends up getting the purple energy, he's the gatekeeper, he's a neutral player. The whole idea is that his world is dark because of that. So a lot of the coloring is dark shades around that. Where our other character, Scales, who ends up getting the green energy from our universe, he ends up having a much brighter universe, even though he has a dark story. So it's interesting. Like, so we do play on that a little bit, but it actually was focused around the energy of our universe, where literally when we get to the red energy, which has not even been shown yet, that's going to be from a world that when you're there, everything is just black and red. Like it's just darkness. And so that's kind of it's kind of a interesting thing to think about, is that you could use it as a full color palette like Mittens, where like it kind of gives it a vibe. You can use it in the Matrix, where it distinguishes reality from fiction or from virtual. And then you could also just use it for outlining specific good versus evil, like where it's just like like they did with the good guys and bad guys in Star Wars. It's like green and blue versus red. Like it just is an easy way for the audience to follow this really complicated story.
Yep. So what about, you're talking about the extra pages, and I think probably my favorite thing I've ever seen in a comic book was it's called Renato Jones. It's a book by Kyle Andrews. It's an image book. And what he did is he put in, like, they look like real print ads, like of like perfumes or like whatever. And it really makes it like it you see it in the story somewhere else. It like enhances it. It's sort of like this weird break the fourth wall thing. And so I think that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen done with those extra pages.
But one of our comics, we have a newspaper as the first and second page. So it's the cover page, the credits page, and then the front and back of the next sheet is a newspaper that has articles from our universe.
Right.
The headline article is the main thing that happened from the other story. So like an explosion in a building that toppled down is the main article. But then there's these small articles on the side that are actually stories from other comics, but they're talking about it in the newspaper. And then on the back side of one of those newspaper articles is a coupon for a discount at a burger joint in our universe. And if you go to our store, it's actually a functioning coupon on our merch store. Yeah. So like cool. we've done like some fourth and fifth wall breaking there by like having that, because there's literally a scene where there's a character running away from the cops and he's in front of that burger joint when the ground blows up. So like if you're on a map, that's what you're looking at. You're seeing this guy right outside this burger joint, and then what's it called? Cool. Yeah, we put it in the newspaper. So yeah,
that's what I used like do you remember the old advertisements that there'd be like a page in all the comics in the 80s that would have like hypnospecs or like sea monkeys, like sea monkeys and all this like, and so I made the same thing on the back page. Is actually looks like a bunch of ads, but they're all in universe, like hints about other stories that exist within the whole thing, like the Elite Exodus of 2080. Like, what the hell's that? Well, it's on the back. It's in an advertisement in the back, and then someday we'll tell you. But I think that's very similar to your newspaper idea. It's really cool. And then the other, print ads that like Mr. Andrews did. I put a print ad in there as well. That was like a in-universe fake thing, but also with a real person.
By the way, are you going to tell the story in Johnstown? Yeah.
Yeah. So the toying around thing that we were just at, the block party con thing, Johnstown. There's a guy from the Daily Gazette that was there, and he just randomly came out to our table, and he's like, "Would you like $1 million?" No. So he was like, would you want to have an interview? But he didn't really say that yet. He was just like, going around talking. And then I got our second issue of Seer Chronicles, and was like, "Oh, hey, this is like based off of the Daily Gazette." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, so now we definitely have to have an interview."
Yeah, literally the newspaper that we have in the comic is based off the Daily Gazette. It's called the Daily Journal. And so literally he came up to our table, he was kind of just going table to table trying to find a story. And so he's talking to us. We're like, "Oh yeah, we're based in Schenectady." He's like, "Oh, that's cool." And then I wasn't even putting together he was part of the Daily Gazette, and Greg's over there trying to open the damn comic. And then he's like, "See this? This is your newspaper in our universe." And he goes, "You don't talk shit about us, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's actually just it's meant to be a play, like as if it's that comic, or that newspaper, but in our universe." Which I will also say, and I've said this before, if you're an independent comic creator, it is okay to spoil your comic, because people aren't going to remember everything anyways, but you might be hiding the one thing that would make them remember it. And that's the thing. It's like, it's okay. Tell them all your Easter eggs, because who are you talking to? The 10 people? There's 7 billion people. If you want other people to get this, like we had a couple of kids at the Nashville convention, Nashville Comic Con. They came up to us. We chatted for a while. I told them some of the cool stuff in the story, and one of them bought the comic. The next day, he brought his friend over, and he was like, "You need to buy this comic too." And so he did. And it's all because
word of mouth.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where, like, really, you cannot spoil too much of your comic, because there aren't enough people that know the story yet. You could spoil a Superman movie because everybody knows who Superman is, and they're gonna be like, "Oh no, that one character I thought might be in there, you ruined it," right? Like, but you're an independent comic creator. Spoil the crap out of it, because that person is gonna feel special for knowing something nobody else knows. Like that's how they get those original fans that met Stan Lee very early on, and they're like, "Oh, I remember when he told me he was writing this. This is so cool." You know what I mean? Like that's it. If you want that moment in the future, spoil the crap out of your stuff with those fans that come up to your table early, because they're going to be the ones that know the secrets. When you're too famous to talk to anybody else, then you can keep some secrets. But like, yeah, if you're not famous yet, tell all your secrets.
Right. Now, do you guys, when the second issue or whatever, how many issues you're on, do you advertise in that comic saying, the third issue, it'll be starting on Kickstarter?
No, we haven't. We don't really do it like that. If our comic is already out, I might put like an ad in there that says check out our other comics. So like in the back of Night Watch, our most recent comic, I basically showcase all of the other comics because there isn't a Night Watch 2. But if they really like that comic and they'd like to read more from us, I'd like them to know, hey, this is, even though this is issue 1 of Night Watch, we've got like 10 other comics you could check out. So we'll do stuff like that, but I definitely try to avoid putting something that's not complete in something that is, right? Because I don't want them to be like, oh, like I went to go look up that Kickstarter and it doesn't exist. And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, we actually went to run it and then it didn't work, so we canceled it. It's like you know what I mean? I don't want to do that to a potential fan. So everything that's in our stuff is meant to be like, you know, in fact, there's only one comic that has something in it that is technically not going to exist, but it is going to exist, which is our Inc. 3 comic, where we say the Seer Chronicles 3 is coming out, but we're actually changing the name of the comic altogether, and it's going to be a new series. So you know, but it's the same comic. It's just going to be basically we took our old origins, or we took our old comic, and we're going to turn that into an origin story version, and then we're going to leave that alone and then start from the basically the action as issue 1 of this comic series. And then we're going to repurpose that name, which is the Seer Chronicles, into our origin story. So a bunch of our comics, we have like a pilot episode that's kind of the origin. But after a conversation with Ed Jowett, which I've mentioned him a ton of times on our podcast, we basically were like, you know what? No one knows where this story's going but Greg and I. So no one's gonna get hooked on like, and this is where he started learning his powers. It's like they don't know what his powers are yet, right? So instead, we took our pilot episodes and then jumped several years into the future for most of our comics now. So they're all immediately exciting. And that's what we're doing with this one. But we had 2 pilot episodes essentially that are very long and they don't get as exciting. Like there's parts of it that are, but it's not like this long action sequence. So now our latest of that series is going to be a new one, but that's the only thing that's in a comic that was put in there, but wasn't going to get released, even though it technically will be released just under a different name.
Right. Okay. So did you guys ever do Plastic City Comic Con?
No.
The one that's in Massachusetts?
I've never even heard of that. What is that?
Oh, it's Keith. He's from Comics Relay. He does a podcast. So it's in Massachusetts. You could probably look it up, Plastic City Comic Con. It's in August. So
August 23rd. Yeah, I just found it.
There's a convention that I really wanted to go to, but we were put on the wait list this year. At least we were put on the wait list though, and not just.
Which one?
Silver Screen Con.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever even heard back from MC3 other than like the auto reply, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, like, that's a convention that the table's like almost $500. And I had to put my card on file for them to not even get back to me. That's there's definitely like, and that's a bigger convention, but it's not New York or San Diego. Like, so it's very hard to get into some of these conventions, but even the smaller ones, depending on their venue size, like that IC3 one that we went to, I think the only reason we got in was because we were like right near the entrance, meaning we were one of the last people that got signed up. It's mostly because we knew about it originally and we reached out, I think, right after the first one. And so we were on the guy's radar to get in there early. But yeah, other than that, though, it was one of those things where that place was so packed. I literally could not meet everyone there. And I started from when we got there until it ended. I stopped by every table I could for just a few minutes. But it didn't matter. There were so many creators, I couldn't see everybody, and it's a one-day convention. It definitely was packed, but he did say that next year there were so many people on the wait list, they're going to have to expand the venue. It's either going to add another floor or I don't know what they're going to do because like that place was packed.
Yeah, because I had a college there.
Well, I do a lot of local arts and craft shows that the people know me, you know, around where I live.
Honestly, like I wasn't even at the table, and Greg knows, like I'm the main sales guy. Like I'm the one that sells, the majority of the stuff at our table. Greg had no problem selling at that con because everyone there is an indie creator, and indie creators are interested in indie things. So it's definitely something that it went really well. We made lots of cool connections, got to meet people that in person that we've only met online. We got to meet a quarter of the team of the people that print our comics, and meet the people putting on the comics. It was very cool. And then all the panels were related to comic creators. So like there was one about get your comic into a comic shop and like how to actually pitch it to them. Buy a comic book shop owner who specifically puts up indie comics, which is very cool. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile to keep bothering them and be like, yo, can I get up that wait list?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to do as well.
Right.
But it was really good.
Oh, plus you're in New Haven. So you got like the top pizza places.
Where do you get your comics printed?
Oh, Comics Wellsprings.
Do you do Comics Wellspring?
Yep.
Yeah.
Your printer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ever heard of Comics Wellspring?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's got a delay.
Yeah, he has a delay.
Comics Wellspring.
Yeah, that's
They're supposed to be printers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's so funny. I feel like we're probably super delayed for him, so he's gonna hear all this later.
Blurped.
Blurp. Can you hear us? Are we
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Comics Wellsprings is our printer. That's the one we work with. We actually are chatting with them because I want to host we host a virtual expo at the end of every year. We've been doing it since 2020 because everyone else closed their cons and we're like, what should we do? Let's open one. And so we have a virtual Comic Con that we've been hosting since 2020. So this is year 6. And we actually had them sponsor our 3rd or 4th one. And so this year when I met them at IC3, I mentioned that to him and I was like, oh yeah, you guys were our sponsors for this. And then the guy mentioned, we're actually trying to put on our own virtual expo. We want to do twice a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. And I go, and he's like, maybe we could just partner with you guys and that can cover it because apparently he's the only one that does all the work. And Greg and I have to do a crap ton of work ourselves just to put on one ourselves. I can't imagine trying to do that solo. So it was very, so he's very interested in that. So I'm actually hoping that this year we can actually partner with them and make it even bigger, which would be awesome. But
well, I was watching one of their podcasts, and I don't know if you know Global Comics.
Yep.
I mean, Comics Wellspring is getting together with them to form something.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on their website. And their prices went down because I just printed Night Watch, and I was like, wow, that's cheaper. So what happened? But
that's one of the things that's one of the things they've been working on is trying to get it to be as affordable as possible to indie creators so that basically they can dominate the market. So they're doing everything they can. They're working with different companies and partnering with different companies. I know that they were purchased at one point and then purchased again, and they've been kind of like making this big conglomerate of printing. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to be doing next, but it's very cool that they're really trying to expand. So hopefully I'll learn more when I chat with Brandon. He's their community and brand manager. So he's the one that I'm going to be chatting with about potentially putting on that con. Because this past year, we actually had so many people apply to our online convention that we had a wait list. So like it really, and it's digital. So it's not like we're worried about space. We literally can really have people on a phone call on here without it being chaos. And I think there's actually a physical limit of like 8, I think. So we're just based on time. We do 3 days, 8 hours a day, Black Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And even then we still could only fit so many people in those slots. So eventually,
and then if people want to purchase, they would purchase online, right?
Yeah.
Something.
There was one guy that actually set up a table like in his house, Austin Jam House, and and I was like, yeah, that's like what I want other people to do. But eventually,
Eventually,
Right.
like long-term goal is I want 3 simultaneous live streams on different platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, something like that, and each of them would be different, halls, right? So hall A, B, and C, and hall A would be Artist Alley, and I just literally want 8 hours of just streaming of artists drawing, and then one at a time a moderator is walking up to each table. So like on these videos we can go like this, not that,
Right.
this, there we go, and you could prioritize somebody. So all the other artists are over here, now one of them can showcase. So that's kind of the goal, is I want us so that eventually we can have one stream of just Artist Alley, and they get to draw all day so people can walk up
Right.
and look. And then another alley or another hall would just be the panels, which is what we currently do. It's mostly just panels. And then the third one would be like showcases. So like cosplay showcase, maybe a Dungeons and Dragons live stream. Maybe someone's showing off like a how-to video of how to draw comics, how to make a cosplay costume, how to make your own game, how to be a good dungeon master, whatever it is.
Right.
But like how-tos or showcases where it's like a fashion show or something like that. So, or like even like an indie band could play, something like that. That'd be the ideal scenario that I'd like to put up.
In other words, it's still a work in progress, right?
Oh yeah.
So before we end, where can people find you? We'll go with Mark, and then we'll go with Jeff.
Where can they find me? My book is available on Amazon. So the title is Frankie Crossroads, The Journey. And then there's the second book, Frankie Crossroads. And I don't have much of a social media because I don't get a lot of people on social media. So.
Okay. You can find me JeffAugustEgoTrip.com, at Jeffrey August on Instagram, and also at the Ulheftnar Ritual on Instagram. And on Spotify, search Jeff August Ego Trip, and a whole bunch of songs come up, and that's all me. So anyway.
Well, I am working on a website, so
cool.
What's
eventually when I get there.
Do you have the domain for it?
Not yet. Soon. It costs money, Gotta save this money up,
Yeah, domains aren't too expensive. I would get a domain. They're like $15 a year, $20 a year. Something.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe WordPress, go for their e-commerce.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems pretty cheap.
That's what we're building is WordPress.
So.
Okay. Well,
because I sent something to, I don't know if it's called, I heard it on radio. And I asked if they would be interested in interviewing. He goes, well, once you get a website up and running, let us know. I'm like, okay.
I forgot to mention one more thing, guys. On Kickstarter, you can find the Ulheftnar Ritual right now. It'll launch for backing on August 1st.
Yeah,
so
it's the same link. So the link, if you gave me a link, I think you did.
I did, yeah.
That link will just
redirect. I haven't done any Kickstarting because I'm very worried about that. I'm like, okay, would that be like too much work for one person? Or?
It's a lot of work.
Kind of. So the thing is, like, what you really got to think about is like, if you set your goals correctly and you do enough promotion, honestly, you want to do a lot of research. We have an article actually, ironically, on our website about like what to consider when putting on a Kickstarter. Maybe we can send that over to you because it is something that it can be a lot of work, but if you prepare for it long enough in advance and you actually go through the process of what needs to get and you don't just rush through it, because the problem is some people rush through it and it is a lot of work and then they don't get the results and then it sucks. But if you just take your time with it, if like 3 months in advance you plan out you're going to do it and you put all the stuff together, you get all the assets, you start telling people in advance, You have a landing page from Kickstarter, which you can make for free and get it all started. Like that, that's a better way to do it so that you're not stressed out. Or you can do it like Greg and I do it with like a month before, and we're like, like screaming the whole time.
Yeah, but you got to know how much it's going to cost to print it, right? And
we do all the math and everything. So.
But yeah, by the way, that's where either A, Excel sheets are for the win, or B, like I mentioned earlier, that's where AI is for the win. You could ask AI and be like, hey, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, I want to print a comic. It's X pages long. I might use Comics Wellsprings of this company or this company. How much is it going to cost if I only want to print X amount, right? Or I plan on printing Y amount. Like that's a way to get that number in seconds. And then you could say, I want to run a Kickstarter that will fund this amount of money. How much insurance, policy do I need? 10%, 20%? How do I account for shipping? That's the kind of stuff that is really helpful.
All right. Okay, it's been fun.
Thanks for coming
Different.
on. Yeah.
So hopefully I'll probably see you in a couple of Comic Cons.
I hope so.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Definitely, it's been fun.
Yeah.